Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon and good evening. My name is Rahim Safi. I am from Afghanistan. My career has been focused on agriculture water management. I have worked as a water management specialist with Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation and Livestock in Afghanistan. Also, I have worked as a WASH project manager and coordinator with the Dutch NGO ZOA and as a hydraulic engineer with World Hunger Helper. I have master's in water science and engineering with specialization in land and water development for food security from IHE Delft Institute of Water Education in the Netherlands. Currently, I am working on writing scientific article on under the program of translating science to application at the IHE Delft Institute of Water Education. I'm quite privileged and honored to speak to you all on this important topic of rural development and agricultural water management in Afghanistan. I have prepared a presentation in which I will be talking about what is the link of agricultural water management and rural development in the country, and how it is important, and what challenges and opportunities we have. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, I will be discussing how water management is related to the rural development in Afghanistan, what opportunities we have, and what challenges we face currently. Water management is very much important in the rural development of Afghanistan because about 80% of the Afghan population is engaged in agriculture indirectly or directly. And when it comes to the rural population, more than 85% of the rural people relying on agriculture productions. And as you know that Afghanistan is a predominantly rural society. About 71% of the people in Afghanistan live in rural areas. So this makes it a very much important agriculture for the development of the rural Afghanistan. And when we think about the agriculture development in Afghanistan, we have to think about also the irrigation development in the country, because Afghanistan has arid to semi-arid climate. In this kind of climate, rainfall is not enough sufficient to meet the crop water demand, and that's why we have to supply water artificially, which is called irrigation. That's why irrigated agriculture is the main source of agricultural production in the country. As a least developed country in Afghanistan, we have a lot of challenges to improve our water management system and to consequently upbring our rural livelihood. The first challenge is that in Afghanistan only 11% of the land is arable, and even a smaller portion of the land, only 3.7% of the total land is under irrigation. And still the small portion of the land, irrigated land, is largely underutilized due to the poor irrigation efficiency. In our country, we have irrigation efficiency ranging from 30 to 40%, which is quite below than our neighbors' irrigation efficiency, like Pakistan and Iran. In our country, we have a wrong concept of the maximum irrigation. Farmers think that the more they water apply, the more they get yield, but it's not the case. We had several research in the eastern part of the country while I was working with Ministry of Agriculture on wheat and pepper crop, and we found that only optimum irrigation is the option of irrigation which can maximize yield. This wrong concept also leads to the lack of equity in the irrigation scheme. because farmers at the head reach of the canal or irrigation scheme, they apply more water because they are more close to water source, and this is not always productive, and this is often counterproductive, because it could lead to inefficient use of water, and it can reduce production though. Whereas at the tail end of the irrigation scheme, farmer face extreme water scarcity, and sometimes they get water, but that's not the most needed time for them. So this mismanagement of water in the rural Afghanistan results in decreased agriculture production, food insecurity, and extreme rural poverty. And if we look at the National Adaptation Program of Actions projection, it's obvious that climate change will hit hard Afghanistan agriculture and water sector, which will further intensify these food insecurity and in water shortage problems. Despite the challenges we have in Afghanistan, we also have good opportunities in Afghanistan that we can develop rural areas in the whole country with the help of improved water management. The first is that we have more rich water resources than our neighbors, Iran and Pakistan. And also irrigation optimization is something that can increase crop production, because currently we have low water productivity, and if we optimize our irrigation system, we can increase crop production. I mean the yield we obtain per hectare of the land, and we can also at the same time reduce water consumption, and with that saved water we can irrigate further land, or we can supply that to other sectors like industrial sector and domestics, and for the other purposes that water can be used. In Afghanistan, we have, of course, issues of the security, particularly in the rural areas. But thanks to the remote sensing technology, we can use this technology to identify bright and hot spot. With the bright and hot spot, we can identify a bright spot or those in which farmers are performing well, and hot spot or those in which farmers are performing bad. So we can find these spots, and we can compare their practices on the ground, and then we can find what are the major causes of these water productivity variation, and then we can close the gap of the water productivity variations, which can help increase crop production and reduce water consumption. The very best thing which I like in our country is a strong MIRAB system we have in the country. MIRAB is a very respected person in the country, and this system is bringing villagers and farmers together, and they work together. They do collective actions for cleaning the canal, which is called Asher and Kater. They reconstruct their headworks after washed by floods. They bring wooden poles, trees to put that in the diversion structures. They bring stones, and sometimes they also collect money to provide certain labor, or to provide certain materials for the maintenance of the canal and maintenance of the diversion structure. And as we have this MIRAB system already formed, already established, in our most of the irrigation scheme, which are farmer-led and small irrigation scheme. So we can convert these MIRAB system into modern irrigation associations, which and we can train them on the improved irrigation and agronomic practices, and with how to maintain their canal in the best way. The most important part of my presentation will be this one, because I met some people in person, and I discussed with him how our projects and how our work have changed their life. And I met one person, Malek Landu, in Laghman province. Their soil was sandy, and all the water would infiltrate in the sand, and they wouldn't get water. They had a lot of losses in the along the canal reach, and he was telling me that he couldn't irrigate his 1.25 jib land in 3 hours time, but after the improvement he could irrigate it just in 20 to 30 minutes. I also met another person, Umar Gwil, in Laghman province. He was telling me that when he would divert water from the headwork to the canal, it would arrive to his field in 1 hour, and now it arrives in 5 to 7 minutes. So it decreases a lot of their effort they make, and also it increases the conveyance efficiency of water from headwork to the outlet of the field. And also he was telling me that he couldn't irrigate 3 jib land because of the water shortage, and after improvement he could irrigate the whole land. Also his total production increased from 650 months to 1100 months, and 1 month is equal to 7 kilogram. I did this analysis while I was working at the Ministry of Agriculture. We lined a canal in the eastern part of Afghanistan, and then we found that how water productivity of the whole irrigation scheme changed from before the improvement and now to after the improvement. And you can see here the wheat water productivity before the lining of the irrigation scheme was 0.5 kilogram per meter square of water consumption, and then it increased to 0.67 kilogram per meter water consumption after we improved the canal. Similarly, their irrigation time per hectare was initially 218 minutes, and then after we improved the irrigation scheme, it reduced to 128 minutes. Similarly, we also had reduction in the conveyance time. Previously the water would travel 1 kilometer distance in 45 minutes, and after the lining of the canal it reduced to 30-minute time for travel of 1 kilometer for water in the canal. Thanks for your attention. I look forward to receiving your questions, and I will be happy to answer all of your questions as soon as I can.